She was a reporter who knew too much, digging into truths powerful men wanted buried forever. Her final story would leave a chilling question behind. On the morning of November 8, 1965, a hairstylist named Mark Sinclair climbed the stairs of a 5-story Manhattan townhouse on East 68th Street, expecting a routine appointment with one of the most famous women in America. Instead, he walked directly into a chilling enigma that would baffle investigators for decades. Dorothy Kilgallen, celebrated multimedia journalist, crime reporter, and beloved television star, lay dead in a third-floor bedroom. She was propped up in a bed she rarely used, still wearing her full television makeup, a false hairpiece, and an elegant evening gown, as if she had suddenly collapsed mid-sentence. Yet, beneath the surface of this bizarrely composed scene lay a terrifying question: did America's most relentless investigative reporter die of an accidental overdose, or was she systematically silenced for uncovering the truth behind the assassination of President John F. Kennedy? Those who knew Dorothy well immediately noticed that the entire setting felt completely wrong. She was an impeccably organized woman of high fashion, yet she was found in a bed without her reading glasses, a book propped open on her lap upside down, under covers that were tucked tightly around her body. The air in the room was thick with a heavy silence, and as her close friend and scriptwriter Marlene Linz later noted, Dorothy never went to sleep with her makeup on, nor did she sleep in that particular guest room. More disturbing still was what was missing from the immediate vicinity. Dorothy had been working tirelessly on a massive, highly sensitive manuscript, a sprawling collection of interviews, notes, and official documents regarding the events in Dallas 2 years prior. She routinely carried these papers in a distinct brown accordion folder that went with her everywhere, a folder she referred to as her ultimate insurance policy against those who wanted her stopped. On that crisp November morning, as police officers and medical personnel began filling the townhouse, that folder was nowhere to be found. It had completely vanished from her home, along with her private dictation tapes and recent working notebooks. The scene was perfectly neat, almost artificially so, presenting a pristine facade that masked a chaotic undercurrent of missing evidence and whispered secrets. As the news of her passing began to filter out to a stunned public, a deeper, far more unsettling realization began to dawn on those who followed her work. Dorothy had promised to blow the case wide open, but the case had closed around her first. To understand why Dorothy Kilgallen's death sent shockwaves through the highest corridors of American power, one must understand the unprecedented magnitude of her influence. Long before she became a household name on television, Dorothy was a fiercely talented, ink-stained print journalist who had broken through the fierce barriers of a male-dominated industry. Born into a newspaper family, she possessed an innate instinct for the scoop, a sharp intellect, and an uncompromising work ethic that quickly elevated her to the position of star reporter for the New York Journal-American. She wasn't just a society columnist. She was a hard-nosed crime reporter who covered some of the most sensational trials of the 20th century, including the Lindbergh baby kidnapping trial. Her daily column, The Voice of Broadway, was syndicated in nearly 200 newspapers across the United States, reaching a fiercely loyal readership of over 20 million people. When Dorothy spoke, the country listened, and politicians, celebrities, and mobsters alike carefully weighed her words. By the 1950s, her fame expanded exponentially when she joined the panel of CBS's hit game show, What's My Line? Every Sunday night, millions of Americans tuned in to watch this incredibly sharp, beautifully dressed woman display her razor-sharp wit and uncanny deductive skills. She became an icon of mid-century sophistication, balancing the glitz of Broadway openings with the gritty reality of the courtroom. Yet, beneath the glamorous evening gowns and the sparkling banter lay the mind of a master investigator. Dorothy possessed an extraordinary network of sources that stretched from the glittering tables of the Stork Club to the dark underbelly of organized crime and the highest levels of federal law enforcement. She was a woman who could not be easily ignored, intimidated, or bought off by corporate interests or political machines. Her integrity was her shield, and her mass media platform gave her a unique form of cultural immunity, or so she believed. She had spent decades building a reputation as a truth-teller who could sway public opinion with a single, well-placed sentence. This immense popularity meant that if she chose to investigate a matter of national security, her findings could not be quietly buried in the back pages of a local newspaper. She carried the megaphone of a major media empire, and as the mid-1960s approached, she prepared to aim that massive megaphone directly at the official narrative of the defining tragedy of her generation. In the mid-1960s, Dorothy Kilgallen operated at the absolute apex of American media power, wielding an influence that contemporary commentators can scarcely imagine. Her five-story Manhattan townhouse was not merely a luxurious residence, it was a bustling nerve center where high society intersected with hard political reality. On any given evening, her parlor might play host to legendary musicians, Hollywood elite, top-tier politicians, and high-ranking intelligence operatives. This unparalleled access granted her insights that regular reporters could only dream of uncovering, making her an incredibly formidable force in American public life. She possessed the rare ability to shape national conversations from her living room, utilizing her immense social capital to unearth deeply buried secrets. Dorothy understood the intricate mechanics of power dynamics, recognizing how favors were traded, how secrets were kept, and how the official truth was manufactured in the corridors of Washington and New York. Her unique position made her both an asset and a distinct threat to the establishment. She was entirely self-made, fiercely independent, and protected by a massive, adoring public that viewed her as an arbiter of absolute truth. This deep connection with her audience meant that she could bypass official press rooms and speak directly to the American conscience, a capability that deeply unnerved those who sought to control information. She was not a passive recipient of government press releases, she was an active investigator who questioned motives and analyzed discrepancies with a clinical precision born of decades in criminal courtrooms. As her interest shifted toward national politics, her columns began to reflect a growing skepticism about the official pronouncements coming out of federal agencies. Her readers trusted her explicitly, knowing she had spent a lifetime exposing corruption and hypocrisy without fear or favor. This immense credibility would prove to be her most potent weapon, and her most dangerous liability. When a journalist with 20 million weekly readers begins to publicly question the foundations of a government investigation, the stakes elevate from a simple media dispute to a matter of critical state survival. Dorothy was fully aware of her immense power, and she was entirely unafraid to use it, stepping boldly into a shadow world where the rules of journalistic immunity no longer applied, and where the truth carried a deadly price tag. The moment the shots rang out in Dallas's Dealey Plaza on November 22, 1963, Dorothy Kilgallen's focus shifted entirely, consuming her professional life. While most of the mainstream press quickly accepted the official narrative of a lone gunman, Dorothy's seasoned journalistic instincts immediately detected profound inconsistencies. Having covered dozens of high-profile murder trials, she knew how a legitimate, thorough criminal investigation was supposed to look, and the chaotic events in Texas looked like anything but a standard procedure. She was deeply disturbed by the immediate, aggressive rush to judgment, the convenient hunting down of Lee Harvey Oswald, and the subsequent, shocking security failures that allowed Jack Ruby to silence Oswald in the basement of the Dallas police headquarters. To Dorothy, this was not a closed case, it was a massive, poorly constructed cover-up that insulted the intelligence of the American public. She began using her widely read column to ask pointed, deeply uncomfortable questions that few other mainstream journalists dared to articulate in print. She questioned how a marginal figure like Jack Ruby could gain easy, unrestricted access to a highly secured police facility, and she openly wondered about the true nature of Ruby's extensive connections to organized crime figures and local law enforcement. Her obsession grew as she began reviewing the official accounts, cross-referencing public statements with her own deep knowledge of mafia operations and political networks. She realized that the narrative being presented to the public was a fragile fabric of assumptions held together by political expediency. Dorothy refused to let the matter rest, dedicating her immense resources to pulling at the loose threads of the official story. Her columns became a beacon for skeptics across the nation, establishing her as the primary journalistic challenger to the government's rapidly forming consensus. She was not content to merely report from afar, she wanted to look the principal actors in the eye. This unyielding determination eventually led her directly to Dallas, where she would secure an extraordinary, unprecedented opportunity that would alter the trajectory of her life and place her on a direct, unavoidable collision course with the unseen forces managing the aftermath of the assassination. In March of 1964, Dorothy Kilgallen traveled to Dallas to cover the murder trial of Jack Ruby, the nightclub owner who had shocked the world by assassinating Lee Harvey Oswald on live television. Her presence in the courtroom immediately elevated the gravity of the proceedings, signaling to the legal establishment that the national press was watching with a critical eye. During a recess in the highly charged trial, Dorothy achieved what every investigative reporter in the world desperately coveted, a completely private, one-on-one interview with Jack Ruby himself. The meeting took place away from the prying eyes of the public and the heavy security detail, inside the judge's private chambers. To this day, the exact mechanics of how she secured this extraordinary, top-secret interview remain shrouded in mystery, but her extensive network of legal and political contacts undoubtedly played a pivotal role. For several highly intense minutes, Dorothy sat alone with the man who held the keys to the darkest secrets of the assassination. No guards were present, no official transcript was recorded, and no notes were made public. What Jack Ruby told her during those critical, hushed moments remains one of the most tantalizing mysteries of the entire 20th century. Those who saw Dorothy immediately after the interview noted a profound, visible shift in her demeanor. The usually poised, unflappable journalist appeared visibly shaken, her expression a mix of deep anxiety and intense determination. She confided in close friends that Ruby had revealed information that completely shattered the lone gunman theory, detailing a complex web of complicity that involved high-ranking figures within law enforcement, organized crime, and the federal government itself. Ruby, who was terrified for his life and desperate to be moved to a secure facility in Washington, had seemingly used the legendary reporter as a conduit to get his true story out before he was silenced forever. Dorothy knew she was now holding a piece of explosive historical dynamite. This private encounter transformed her investigation from a serious professional pursuit into an urgent, deeply dangerous mission, as she realized that the secrets in her possession had the power to reshape the geopolitical landscape of the United States. When the Warren Commission released its massive, official report in September of 1964, concluding definitively that Lee Harvey Oswald acted entirely alone, Dorothy Kilgallen launched a fierce, public counteroffensive. She did not merely criticize the report, she actively humiliated the commission by obtaining and publishing top-secret transcripts of its closed-door hearings before they were officially released to the public. This was a monumental journalistic coup that deeply embarrassed the Johnson administration and sent shockwaves through the highest levels of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover was reportedly furious, viewing Kilgallen's defiance as a direct, unacceptable threat to national security and federal authority. Hoover immediately ordered his agents to locate the source of her leak and to put Dorothy under intense, continuous surveillance. Bureau files later obtained under the Freedom of Information Act reveal that Dorothy became the subject of extensive federal scrutiny, with agents tracking her movements, monitoring her columns, and assessing her potential to disrupt the official narrative. Despite this mounting pressure and the clear knowledge that she was being watched by the most powerful law enforcement agency in the world, Dorothy refused to back down. She used her column to systematically dismantle the Commission's findings, labeling the report a myth and pointing out glaring contradictions in witness testimonies that had been conveniently ignored or suppressed by investigators. She openly ridiculed the famous single-bullet theory, using her deep understanding of forensics and criminal law to demonstrate its sheer physical improbability. To her millions of readers, she became the ultimate alternative authority on the assassination, a trusted guide through a dense wilderness of official deception. Her public defiance made it impossible for the government to quietly close the book on Dallas, keeping the flame of public skepticism burning brightly across the country. Dorothy was no longer just a reporter covering a story, she had become an active, dangerous adversary to the official history of the United States, challenging the integrity of the President, the FBI, and the entire national security apparatus with every word she published. As 1965 progressed, Dorothy Kilgallen's investigation became increasingly clandestine, centered around a growing repository of evidence that she guarded with fierce intensity. This collection, which she referred to as her JFK File, was housed inside a thick, brown accordion folder that rarely left her sight. It contained her private notes from the Jack Ruby interview, sensitive documents leaked to her by contacts within the Dallas Police Department, and exclusive leads regarding anti-Castro networks and intelligence operatives. Dorothy was fully aware of the immense danger her research represented, frequently telling her inner circle that she never left her house without her notes because she knew exactly how badly certain people wanted them to disappear. She dropped tantalizing hints in her daily columns and during public appearances, openly declaring that she was preparing to travel to New Orleans to track down a crucial lead that would definitively break the case wide open. She confidently told friends and colleagues that she had uncovered information that would shock the entire world and force a complete reopening of the assassination investigation. Her close companion and fellow journalist, Florence Smith, noted that Dorothy had become uncharacteristically secretive, locking herself in her study for hours, typing furiously, and refusing to discuss the specific details of her latest discoveries over the telephone, fearing that her lines were actively tapped. The folder had become her constant companion, a physical manifestation of a dangerous truth that she carried through the glittering social landscape of New York City. She viewed the file as her ultimate journalistic legacy, the crowning achievement of a legendary career that would finally expose the deep rot at the center of American power. But as the contents of the folder grew more definitive, the invisible circle of surveillance around her began to tighten, transforming her prized asset into a highly dangerous beacon that drew the attention of those who could not afford to let its contents see the light of day. In the final weeks of her life, Dorothy Kilgallen's confidence reached a fever pitch, accompanied by an undercurrent of profound urgency. During a live appearance on What's My Line, and in casual conversations with media executives, she began making bold, public proclamations about her impending reveal. She explicitly vowed to her readers and her television audience that she was about to break the real story of the Kennedy assassination, promising a journalistic explosion that would completely shatter the official narrative once and for all. To her close friend and scriptwriter, Marlene Linz, she confided, "In a few days, I'm going to New Orleans, and I'm going to blow this case sky high." She was no longer speaking in generalities, she possessed specific names, timelines, and operational details that connected the events in Dallas to a wider, far more sinister conspiracy. This public posturing, while characteristic of her theatrical flair as a veteran journalist, proved to be an incredibly high-risk strategy. By openly announcing her intentions and signaling that her investigation was nearing its completion, she effectively gave her adversaries a definitive, ticking deadline. She believed her massive public profile and her immense popularity would serve as an impenetrable shield, reasoning that no one would dare harm a media icon so visible to millions of Americans. It was a tragic miscalculation of the lengths to which her opponents would go to protect their secrets. Her bold declaration sent immediate alarm bells ringing through the intelligence networks and criminal syndicates that she was actively investigating. Dorothy was hunting the most dangerous game in American history, and she was doing so under a brilliant spotlight, entirely exposed. Her friends noticed that beneath her confident exterior, a subtle layer of anxiety had begun to manifest. She began double-checking locks, questioning strangers near her home, and expressing a deep desire to finish the manuscript quickly so she could finally hand it over to her publisher and lift the immense burden of secrecy from her shoulders. The evening of Sunday, November 7, 1965, began like countless others in Dorothy Kilgallen's glamorous, fast-paced life. She appeared live on her regular broadcast of What's My Line, showcasing her usual sharp intelligence and engaging charm before a national audience of millions. Following the conclusion of the television show, she began a complex social itinerary that would later become a focal point of intense scrutiny. She initially went out for drinks with close friends at the elegant Regency Hotel on Park Avenue, a favorite gathering spot for New York's elite, where observers noted she appeared to be in excellent spirits, vibrant, and actively discussing her future plans. However, as the midnight hour approached, the details of her movements became increasingly obscure, entering a foggy territory filled with conflicting testimonies. According to several investigative accounts, Dorothy later met with a mysterious, unidentified man at a late-night spot called the Carousel Club, or a similar upscale lounge. This individual, described by witnesses as a younger, intense man with whom she had been seen in recent weeks, was allegedly a contact who was providing her with critical information for her upcoming New Orleans trip. Those who observed the pair noted that their conversation appeared deeply serious, punctuated by intense whispers and the exchange of documents. Dorothy was seen taking notes and carefully placing papers into her purse. She returned to her East 68th Street townhouse in the early hours of Monday morning, let herself in quietly, and retired to her room. What happened inside that house during the dark hours before dawn remains a profound, impenetrable blank space in the historical record. Did she willingly ingest a lethal combination of substances? Did she meet with an unexpected visitor who gained entry under false pretenses? Or did she simply fall asleep, entirely unaware that her final countdown had already begun? The fragile illusion of a peaceful Monday morning was shattered at approximately 12:45 p.m. on November 8, 1965, when hairstylist Mark Sinclair discovered Dorothy Kilgallen's lifeless body. The immediate reaction within the townhouse was a chaotic mix of profound grief and intense panic. Sinclair immediately alerted her family and called for emergency medical assistance, but it was instantly apparent that Dorothy had been dead for several hours. As the first police officers arrived at the scene, the anomalies began to pile up with alarming speed. Dorothy was found propped up against the headboard of a bed in a third-floor guest bedroom, a room she almost never occupied, as she routinely slept in her master bedroom on a different floor. She was meticulously dressed in a glamorous blue evening gown, her hair perfectly styled, and her face fully made up with the cosmetic applications she had worn for her television broadcast the night before. This was a striking, bizarre departure from her lifelong domestic habits. Her family and staff knew she was a strict stickler for personal comfort at home, always removing her makeup, lashes, and formal attire immediately upon returning from an evening out. Furthermore, a book was found propped open on her lap, yet her essential reading glasses, without which she could not see a single line of text, were nowhere near the bed. The book itself, a novel by John Stringer, was positioned upside down, suggesting it had been hastily placed there after her death to simulate a peaceful, natural scene of nighttime reading. The covers were pulled tightly up to her chest, neatly tucked in, presenting a pristine, artificial tableau that felt completely staged to seasoned investigators. It was a scene designed to convey a quiet, tragic accident, but to those who knew Dorothy's fastidious nature, it screamed of a clumsy, hurried intervention by an outside party. The official medical investigation into the death of Dorothy Kilgallen was characterized by a shocking lack of urgency and a series of bureaucratic irregularities that defied standard legal protocols. Dr. James Luke, a highly experienced medical examiner, conducted the initial autopsy, but the final, public report would not be released for several weeks, leaving a massive vacuum for rumors and speculation. When the official ruling was finally handed down, it only deepened the profound mystery. The cause of death was officially listed as acute ethanol and barbiturate intoxication, but the crucial circumstances surrounding the death were left completely unresolved, explicitly ruled as undetermined. The chemical analysis revealed a lethal combination of fast-acting sleeping pills and alcohol in her system, a classic prescription mixture that had claimed the lives of several Hollywood icons during that era. However, the medical examiner could not, or would not, determine whether the fatal dose was self-administered accidentally, taken with suicidal intent, or deliberately introduced into her system by an outside force. This ambiguous ruling effectively allowed law enforcement agencies to avoid launching a full-scale, aggressive homicide investigation. There was no yellow crime scene tape, no systematic forensic dusting for fingerprints, and no formal, recorded interrogations of the individuals who had seen her during her final hours. The case was quietly treated as a tragic, routine media accident, a simple case of a stressed, aging celebrity mixing pills and alcohol after a long night. To the public, it appeared to be a closed chapter, but to forensic experts and investigative journalists, the Undetermined label was a glaring red flag, a legal compromise that protected the city from having to investigate a potentially explosive political assassination on Manhattan soil. As independent investigators began digging into the medical evidence surrounding Dorothy Kilgallen's death years later, grave flaws in the forensic chain of custody began to emerge. The most shocking revelation involved the chemical analysis of her stomach contents and tissue samples. The toxicological testing was not performed by the Central New York toxicologist, but was instead sent to a completely different laboratory in Brooklyn under unusual administrative directives. The lab reports indicated the presence of multiple distinct barbiturates in her system, including some for which Dorothy did not hold a valid prescription. This directly challenged the theory of an accidental overdose of her own medication. Furthermore, a deep review of the forensic data revealed that the specific amounts of barbiturates found in her blood did not match the concentrations in her stomach, an analytical discrepancy that frequently indicates that drugs were introduced directly into the body over a prolonged period or via a secondary method, rather than through standard, voluntary ingestion. Dr. Charles Umberger, a senior toxicologist who reviewed the files, privately expressed deep concerns about the irregular handling of the samples, noting that critical liver and brain tissues had mysteriously vanished from the storage facilities before confirmatory testing could be completed. The complete lack of an official investigation meant that the vital timeline of her physical collapse was never scientifically established. No one checked her glass for fingerprints, and the liquid remaining in the tumbler beside her bed was poured down the drain by a staff member before it could be chemically analyzed. This systemic breakdown of basic forensic procedures was either an example of breathtaking incompetence by the New York Police Department, or a highly coordinated effort to ensure that any scientific evidence of foul play was permanently erased from the historical record. While the medical contradictions were deeply unsettling, the most damning piece of circumstantial evidence pointing toward foul play was the immediate, total disappearance of Dorothy Kilgallen's investigative research. The thick, brown accordion folder that contained her comprehensive JFK file, the culmination of 2 years of intense research, interviews, and secret leaks, was completely missing from the townhouse when her body was discovered. Her close friend and legal researcher, Margaret Smith, rushed to the home upon hearing the news, intending to secure Dorothy's papers before they could be compromised. Smith later testified that the study had been systematically tossed, drawers were left slightly ajar, and the specific files relating to the Dallas trial and the Jack Ruby interview were entirely gone. Not a single page of her multi-chapter manuscript regarding the assassination was ever found. Her private dictation tapes, which she used to record her thoughts and interview summaries, had also vanished from her desk. This was not a random theft. Her expensive jewelry, fur coats, and cash remained entirely untouched in the master bedroom. Whoever entered that townhouse had a singular, highly specific objective: to locate and destroy the evidence Dorothy had gathered against the architects of the Kennedy assassination cover-up. The disappearance of these notes effectively decapitated her upcoming expose, ensuring that the dangerous secrets she held died along with her. The destruction of her journalistic work product transformed her death from a personal tragedy into a highly successful information blackout. The public was left with a sanitized version of history, stripped of the explosive revelations Dorothy had promised to deliver, leaving independent researchers to wonder what critical truths were contained within those missing pages. The primary theory advanced by conspiracy researchers and Dorothy Kilgallen's close associates is both simple and terrifying: she was systematically assassinated to prevent the publication of her upcoming JFK expose. Proponents of this theory argue that Dorothy had crossed a definitive line during her private interview with Jack Ruby, obtaining specific, actionable details about the operational logistics of the assassination. It is hypothesized that Ruby revealed the names of rogue intelligence operatives, anti-Castro militants, and powerful syndicate bosses who had coordinated the ambush in Dealey Plaza and the subsequent silencing of Lee Harvey Oswald. According to this narrative, as Dorothy's public pronouncements about breaking the real story grew louder, the conspiracy was forced to act, deploying an operative to eliminate the threat before her New Orleans trip could solidify the evidence. The method of her elimination, a covertly administered fatal dose of barbiturates mixed into her drink, was a highly sophisticated intelligence technique designed to mimic a natural or accidental death, avoiding the messy political complications of a shooting or a violent assault in the heart of Manhattan. This theory explains every anomaly at the scene, the staged positioning of her body, the synthetic neatness of the room, and the total, meticulous eradication of her files. In an era where numerous witnesses and individuals connected to the JFK case were dying under unusual circumstances, Dorothy's death is viewed as the ultimate acts of censorship, a cold-blooded execution disguised as a celebrity tragedy, designed to protect the highest levels of the American political structure from a devastating exposure. An essential element of the assassination theory involves the identity of the mysterious individual Dorothy Kilgallen met during her final hours. Investigative journalists have spent decades attempting to identify the younger man seen with her at the late-night lounge on November 7. Some researchers believe this individual was a secret informant deeply embedded within the New Orleans political machine, a contact linked to the notorious mafia boss Carlos Marcello, whom Dorothy was planning to investigate. It is hypothesized that this man was acting as a double agent, baiting Dorothy with high-value inside information to gain her trust and monitor the progress of her manuscript. According to witness reports, this companion was the last known person to see Dorothy alive outside of her home, making him a prime suspect in the administration of the fatal dose. If he was an operative tasked with her elimination, he executed his mission with chilling efficiency, slipping the fast-acting barbiturates into her cocktail before escorting her back toward her residence or allowing her to depart into the night. The complete failure of the New York Police Department to identify, locate, or question this individual remains one of the most glaring omissions in the history of the case. His identity was protected by a wall of official silence, his name scrubbed from any preliminary police notes, leaving him as a ghostly figure hovering on the periphery of the mystery, a lethal catalyst who vanished back into the shadows once his objective had been successfully achieved. To evaluate the probability of foul play in Dorothy Kilgallen's death, one must examine it not as an isolated incident, but as part of a disturbing historical trend. In the years immediately following the assassination of John F. Kennedy, an extraordinarily high number of individuals who possessed inside knowledge, witnessed critical events, or attempted to investigate the tragedy died under highly unusual or violent circumstances. This phenomenon, often referred to by researchers as the JFK witness cleansing, claimed the lives of reporters, police officers, underworld figures, and intelligence assets alike. Figures like Bill Hunter, a reporter who had visited Jack Ruby's apartment immediately after the Oswald shooting, was accidentally shot and killed by a police officer inside a California press room. Another journalist, Jim Coethe, who was also present at that apartment meeting, died from a lethal blow to the neck in his own home. Dorothy's close friend and confidant, Florence Smith, died just 2 days after Dorothy, with her cause of death also attributed to a sudden, vague medical emergency, ensuring that the person Dorothy most likely shared her secrets with was also removed from the equation. The statistical probability of so many interconnected individuals dying within such a compressed timeframe defies natural coincidence. To skeptics and serious researchers, this pattern represents a systematic, coordinated effort by an invisible entity to sanitize the historical record, ruthlessly eliminating any independent lines of inquiry that could lead back to the true conspirators. Dorothy Kilgallen was simply the most high-profile casualty of this silent campaign, a brilliant media star snuffed out to preserve a monumentally fragile historical lie. While the conspiracy narrative is deeply compelling, a powerful alternative perspective exists, one rooted in the harsh, tragic realities of Dorothy Kilgallen's personal life during her final years. Skeptics and mainstream biographers argue that her death was not the result of a political assassination, but rather the predictable, devastating consequence of severe professional burnout, intense personal stress, and chronic substance dependency. By 1965, Dorothy was maintaining a brutal, exhausting schedule, balancing her demanding daily column with her television appearances, radio broadcasts, and her massive investigative work. To sustain this relentless pace, she had become increasingly reliant on prescription sleeping pills, particularly Tuinal and Seconal, to combat severe insomnia, while simultaneously using amphetamines to stay alert during the day. Furthermore, her marriage to Richard Kalmar was under immense strain, and she was reportedly suffering from deep bouts of anxiety and depression. On the night of November 7th, exhausted from her live broadcast and emotionally drained by her intensive research, she may have simply consumed her usual sleeping medication after an evening of drinking, entirely forgetting how much alcohol she had ingested. In this view, the staged appearance of the bedroom was not the work of government assassins, but a desperate, well-intentioned attempt by her family or staff to protect her immense public reputation after discovering her body, cleaning up the room to avoid a sordid media scandal. This perspective reframes the mystery as a human tragedy, demonstrating how a brilliant, exceptionally talented woman was ultimately consumed by the immense pressures of her own historic success and personal demons. Decades after that cold November morning in 1965, the true nature of Dorothy Kilgallen's death remains a profound, haunting question mark in the annals of American history. She was a woman of extraordinary courage, a journalistic titan who possessed the unique power to speak truth to power on a scale that is now completely unimaginable. Whether she was a tragic casualty of her own personal struggles or a brave martyr silenced by a ruthless political conspiracy, her passing marked the permanent end of a specific, aggressive line of inquiry into the defining tragedy of her era. The total disappearance of her JFK files ensured that whatever explosive truths she had uncovered during her private interview with Jack Ruby were lost forever, buried alongside her in an upstate New York cemetery. Her death effectively sent a chilling, unmistakable message to the rest of the mainstream press. There were certain borders that could not be crossed, and certain secrets that carried a lethal price tag, regardless of how famous or beloved the investigator might be. Today, Dorothy Kilgallen is remembered not only as a glamorous icon of television's golden age, but as a fierce, uncompromising seeker of truth who refused to accept a manufactured history. As the files remain missing and the official record remains frozen in its ambiguous verdict of undetermined, her story stands as a powerful, cautionary monument to the immense dangers of confronting the absolute dark center of American power, a brilliant voice permanently silenced, leaving behind an archive that remains forever vanished. Before you go, here's the thing. Every week we investigate another mystery the world could never solve. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And here's the most important part. The next case we investigate could be yours. Tell us in the comments which unsolved mystery, disappearance, or disaster we should cover next. We read every suggestion, and the stories that stay with you are the ones we bring to life.